We're back. Can you believe it? They let us back into the building on this episode of Rough Fairways, a journey to the PGA Tour. Mike and I welcome a good friend of mine, PGA professional Kevin Anderson from Appletree Resort to the pod.
Kevin's going to dive into his teaching methods, how he would teach Bryson, the makeup of a good player versus an elite, and much more.
Join us on the journey next. Rough Fairways, a journey to the PGA Tour welcomes our first coach and a good friend of mine from golf camp. 10 years ago, Kevin Anderson, he's the PGA head professional up at Appletree Resort in Yakima. Kev, thanks for doing this, bud.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you still have a handicap?
Yeah.
What is it?
It isn't having children.
Well, I actually had the fortunate pleasure of playing a lot of golf this year due to the unusual circumstances with COVID. There wasn't a whole lot to do in Yakima, so I would work, and then I'd get done working, and I'd go play golf almost every single day. My wife and I did that for 3-4 months. And my handicap actually, it showed that I was playing a lot. My handicap got down to a +8.
You're a +8?
Yeah.
Is that the lowest you've ever been?
Uh-huh. I've gotten it to a +6 before, but not a +8. And it wasn't just wasn't just at my home track either. You know, if I go and play somewhere else, the scores were still reflecting the handicap.
Wow.
Do you have to have a handicap as a PGA member? I mean, do they? I'm sure they don't require it, but you have to have it if you play. I mean, when you play events, you're always just playing to a scratch. You don't have to play to a +8, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Now, the reason I keep an established handicap is because we have 2 events here at our facility where I play against either the ladies club or the men's club in the year. And it's my net against their gross, or excuse me, their net against my gross. There we go. Sorry, I got that backwards. So it's a couple years ago when it got to a +6, the president of our men's club goes, "Hey, by the way, you're playing to you're giving us an extra 6 strokes." And I go, "No, I'm not. You're not telling me this the day of." Try to grab a couple extra strokes from me, but they ended up whooping me pretty good anyway, so it didn't really matter.
You ever just let them beat you?
No, not on purpose.
Attaboy, good. Hey, where's let's start off with Yeah, attaboy. You haven't changed. Let's start off with what you do teaching. Where's teaching gone? From 10 years ago today, you know, you had all your old school guys, old school versus new school, Ledbetter, Flick, Harmon. Now you have guys that are trying to change it up, Gankus, and that kind of crew, that kind of mindset. What have you seen? And now I know you've been teaching for 5-6 years now.
No.
What have you seen
ever since I started working here? So I've been instructing the last.
So what have you seen?
Years.
Okay. So tell me what you've seen as far as methods. Is it the same? I mean, what's the conversation like?
Teaching has certainly changed in the last 10, 20 years. And the most common methods right now is, you mentioned Jim Flick, and Gankus as well. And those are both 2 world-class instructors, and everyone knows who they are. Both those guys have the same philosophy of you teach people, not methods. And you get a student with a very unique swing. So take George Gankus, for example, working with Matt Wolff. There's a unique golf swing,
right?
But it works.
Absolutely.
So, you work with a guy like Matt Wolff, and I've got my students here where I'm not going to change their swing. Your swing is your swing, and we can mold around that and put you into a direction that's going to make your game improve. So it's not changing the swing. It's working with the student's swing, what they currently have, and embracing that.
Yeah, I love that way to coach. Everybody's got such a different body type too. What's comfortable to some person is not comfortable to someone else, and that's how you end up with all those unique swings.
So that brings so you don't really have a method then, yeah? You just kind of take the person. You have a student, and then your method then goes to what they want and what's going to be best for them. There's no true, this is Kevin Anderson's method of teaching. You don't really.
No, I don't. It's not my way or the highway. I work with my students because all my students are different. Mike, as you said, everyone's got a different body type. Every everybody and every body is different. Every swing is different. So you can't have a one direction method with someone who may be like a unique case of Matt Kuchar back in the day when he was doing a sack and tilt swing. And then you got, other instructors like Sean Foley, who worked with Tiger for a while, who had his own methods. And then you get a guy like, say, Dave Pels. There's another great instructor. A lot of guys don't. A lot of folks I've talked to over the years don't like Pels's methods, but I like a lot of the stuff he has to say.
Yep. I think that's one of the cool things is I look at a bunch of instructors. If you really listen, they're all saying the same thing. They're just saying it differently. And that's what's unique about teaching is finding the person that speaks your language.
Yes. And you have to, that's the biggest challenge right there, really, is all of us PGA instructors are trying to teach our students the same thing. It's just how we communicate it to our students.
Right.
And that level of communication is challenging. It really is. Because I could have all the knowledge in the world, but if I can't get what's in here out of here and into your mind and have it make sense, then we're not going anywhere.
Right.
So yeah, for the record, stack and tilt ruined my golf swing for about a year.
I didn't know you had a golf game to ruin.
Oh.
Yeah, there it is.
Yep.
It only took us a few minutes. Attaboy.
Yep.
Hey, when you're teaching someone, do you set goals for them, or do you just go along and just step by step with them?
I'll work with my students, and when we have our first appearance with each other, we'll talk about what they're experiencing, why we're here, and what issues they see on the golf course where they can make some improvements. It could be something as simple as, I want to play a round of golf with just one ball, save all those penalty strokes. I'd like to get through a round of golf without a 3-putt. I'd like to eliminate the blow up holes, stuff like that, where I ask the students to set some goals, and then I'll help set some goals, some additional goals with them to go along the path that we're working on.
Yeah, good. What do you think about? Go ahead, Eddie.
Yeah, what's your approach with a player like Bryson? Do you change anything? Do you just let him go and let him coach you and say, I want to do this, show me how to do this better?
The thing I would like to see Bryson DeChambeau improve on would be his control. I know he's got this whole new method of bulking up and hitting it as far as he can and go find it. I understand that, but at the same time, if you're bombing drives out there 350, 360 or more, and you're hitting shots out of the rough, and you're not hitting shots out of the fairway with an easy wedge in, and you're not giving yourself those opportunities on the short game, and you're in the what I would refer to as the red zone of 100 yards and in, where you should score every time. I'd like to see him improve on that control and give himself the opportunities. I know he just won a huge event, but you get to the Masters and look what happened.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see him improve on his control and his short game.
How does he do that? How does he improve control when his mindset is just hit it as far as I can and go find it, no matter where it is? How do you change his mind? Can you change his mind?
I don't know if I could change his mind, but I would certainly. He's a numbers guy. We all know that. So I would pull up all of his numbers with him and sit down with him like, hey, look, this is what your numbers are. Where is the area of improvement needed? And we saw it in the Masters just this last week that he was hitting from certain spots where he wasn't giving himself the best opportunity to score. And that's just my personal opinion. It's fun hitting bombs out there, but like I said, if you're not putting yourself in the position to score, you're wasting your time.
Right.
His coach, Mike Shy, enlists the book by Homer Kelly called The Golfing Machine, and it just fits so perfectly with Bryson, because Bryson to me is just a machine.
He is, and what he's doing
with an amazing mind.
Yeah, he's extremely intelligent. We all know that. He's extremely intelligent. He's an extremely talented, gifted golfer, and he's trying to put the two together, which kudos to him. And what he's doing to his body and what he's doing it's changing the game, essentially.
But is it sustainable? Like, look what happened to Tiger. His body is wrecked. and he was swinging the hardest he could, and he was the one guy on tour that were like, my gosh, Tiger's swing speeds and his ball speed and his distance is overtaking the game, and obviously that was very successful to him. But is it sustainable? You know, I don't know how old Bryson is, but he's maybe 5 years away from his first back infusion. I don't know. Is it?
I don't think it's obtainable. I really don't, because I used to have that same method myself personally. You know, I'd be hitting drives, 320, 330, 350 if I really tagged one.
I remember that. You were one of the longest guys in school. Yeah.
Yeah. But the body can only take so much. I mean, you use Tiger Woods as a perfect example. I mean, okay, he's a professional golfer training with Navy SEALs.
Right.
Is that necessarily a good idea? Probably not. But you take a guy like Justin Thomas. Justin Thomas does a tremendous job of taking care of his body. And
I'm so glad you brought him up.
He really does. I mean, you follow him on social media stuff, and you see the posts that he's doing, the amount of effort he puts into taking care of his body, not to bulk up and hit the ball a country mile. It's to build a strong, solid body that's going to allow him a longevity, a long, healthy career and not hurt himself. Whereas a guy like Tiger Woods worked out for so long and was working so hard at it, hitting the ball so hard, back infusion, knee replacement. I mean, you look at all that stuff, and the body can only take so much when you're competing at that level and your body is producing such high, strong numbers. Your body can only take so much of that. And you look at NFL players. Some NFL players work their entire career to get into the NFL, and they finally make it, and their bodies are pushed so hard for, say, a 5-year career,
right?
And they're done, and then they retire. I mean, did Marshawn Lynch, with running back with the Seattle Seahawks, need to retire so early? Probably not, but he recognized he's putting wear and tear on his body, so he hung it up.
Yeah, look at Andrew Luck. He retired early too. I mean, his was more.
Yeah, Andrew Luck. There's another great example.
Concussion related, but still, it's all. Yeah, when you're pushing yourself to the extreme. I mean, it's just like a car. You drive it at the red line the whole day, and then you're surprised that the engine blows. Yeah. So exactly. We're talking about distance in the game. What are your thoughts? With all the roll the ball back talk, or the rough out, or are you just kind of? I mean, I'm a fan of, if someone wants to work for distance, like let that be a reward for them. I don't see how we need to roll a ball back, and because you're going to roll a ball back for everybody. So the guy hitting only 290s now only hitting 270.
Yeah. As far as, if you're asking like what I would like to see about course setups, is that the question that you're asking?
Just a general conversation about people complaining the game's too long, and nobody should be doing 25 under in a tournament and hitting at 360. And I'm all for it. I want to see the best golf played. I don't need equipment to hamper that.
Well, equipment has certainly changed in the last decade. In the last 10 to 20 years, the technology has just extremely changed, from golf clubs to golf balls. It's all changed. And it's making it so that the way that golf is evolving every year is that they're trying to produce higher club head speeds, farther distances, and they're designing these golf courses at such a long length. Yeah, it makes it challenging because not everybody can hit it 300 yards.
Right.
So when golf course architects make these holes so long and so hard, for your average Joe, are you really going to want to go out and spend 5+ hours playing almost 7,000 yards searching for your ball half the time? Probably not.
It really ruins the game. Let me pull up some stats here. So in 2015, JB Holmes led the driving distance with 315. Then it was 317 the next year by DJ, 317 by Rory in 2017, 2018, 319 by Rory. Then in 2019, 317 by Cameron Champ. Last year, Bryson led it in 322. And then this year, he obviously leads it with 337. So my question is, like, how much has the ball really changed in those 6 years to give 22 more yards of distance? I understand that we want to sit here and debate about a distance thing, but is there really of course there's a distance debate, but what has the golf ball done in those 5 years that's really going to help?
Is it a distance debate for everybody
and the average player?
Is it the distance
or
debate
is it just a distance debate for the
Right.
Yeah.
For the two guys at the top that are just way past everybody. I mean, do you have stats on the average driving distance for those years too? Are they all going up with the guy at the top?
No, just the leaders. Yeah.
I think, people tend to get so tied up in hitting the golf ball farther. I mean, that's a very popular question I get asked on the lesson tee, like, hey, I want to hit the ball farther. And everyone gets so tied up in wanting to hit the ball farther. But I want to revert back to what I originally said about DeChambeau. If you're not putting yourself in a scoring opportunity position,
right,
what's the point? And yes, we can all develop and do things physically to develop more distance, and that comes with exercise, that comes with training, that comes with practice, solid timing, a good, well-balanced finished swing, and making solid contact. And that's doing those simple things, good tempo, good timing, good balance, centerness of contact. The ball is going to go as far as you're physically capable of hitting it.
Right. Yeah, and that's what you always hear too. Like, yeah, everybody, I want to hit the ball farther. It's always with the driver, though. Nobody's like, I need 10 more yards out of my 7-iron. They just pull a 6-iron.
Well, yeah. So I would say probably almost 90% of my students that I work with, and I work with hundreds of people a year, where I would say almost 90% of my time with my students is spent on the lesson tee, over on the range, working on ball striking and wanting to be more consistent and wanting to hit the ball farther, wanting to get more out of what they have.
Right.
But then I'll ask all my students this question. I go, okay, well, what's par for a round of golf? Okay, par 72. Okay, you hit a green in regulation on a par 3. You're on in 1, 2 putts for a par. Par 4, you're on in 2, 2 putts for a par. Par 5s, you're on in 3, 2 putts for a par. So you're allowed 2 putts on every hole. That's if you hit 18 greens in regulation, which is really hard to do.
Right.
So it's automatically 50% of the game is on the putting surface. That's if you hit 18 greens in a round. So it's safe to say that more than 50% of the game is around the green. And I see a lot of people spending more than 50% of their time over on the range banging balls.
Oh, yeah. Chicks dig the log ball, man.
We need to have a chipping.
Oh, yeah.
We need to have a chipping debate. I want a chipping debate. That's where the golf needs to go. Let's have a chip off debate, and let's talk about who's the best short game versus who's off longest off the tee. Which brings me to the next point: is like the state of the game. The pace of play, of course, is the number one killer of golf, because, like you said before, nobody really wants to spend 5 hours on a golf course when, one, golf is really, really hard. And if you're not having fun while doing it, then what's out there? I think professional golf is in a great spot. Great leaders, great players, great personalities. But where do you see the state of game for the average Joe? What can the body of golf do to improve it?
On the chipping aspect?
No, just the overall state of the game.
I mean, for the average Joe to improve, short game, hands down.
Yeah, I mean, that's easily what seems to separate good golfers from. I know plenty of guys that can hit a 320 and they can't hit a green once in 18 holes. So,
yeah. So you talk about good golfers versus elite golfers, and I look at all these elite golfers that do this for a living that we all get to idolize and watch on TV every weekend. Their short games are phenomenal. You take a guy like Zach Johnson, who worked with Mike Bender for a while. And Zach Johnson has been quoted in giving a lot of credit to Mike Bender down in Florida for really helping him improve his wedge game. And Bender's facility down in Florida is top notch. And I had the fortunate pleasure of sitting in on an education seminar here in the state of Washington, where Mike Bender came out to address our entire section and give an education seminar. And it was really, really helpful. And you hear a lot of really cool stuff that the guy had to say. And that's just one example. Mike Bender and Zach Johnson is a great combination. Then you take another, I would say, when he's playing well, which he has his ups and his downs, but Jordan Spieth has a good short game too. Then you take a guy like Phil Mickelson. Mickelson's the doctor of the short game. And that guy's short game is unbelievable.
Where do you see the battle between what we see is, the average golfer needs short game to improve, but they're watching a tailor-made commercial and it's all about distance with the new driver. I mean, I think golf marketing is also a huge part of what ruins the average guy's, enjoyment of golf.
That's a very valid point, because if, like you said, you look at all these TV commercials and all this marketing promotion stuff about wanting to hit the ball farther, but then you see, the quickest way to lower your score is by switching to the number one ball in golf, Titleist.
Right.
So what is it about that ball that's going to lower my scores? Well, there's so many different options as far as the Titleist brand of golf balls is concerned. There's a wide range of different options for different players of different abilities to help get them the correct golf ball with their game to help them shoot lower, more consistent scores.
I've always loved people's ability or desire to spend $600 on our new driver and complain about taking one lesson. The price. Oh, it's $80 for a lesson. It's $100 on ooh, I hit it further into the trees with my new driver.
So $600 will get you 5 lessons with you, Kev. I mean, come on.
Well, see, I've recognized that over the years, and I honestly, I have my prices as far as lessons are concerned have not changed in 5-6 years, and I've kept my rates extremely affordable. I'm only charging $60 for an hour lesson, and I want my students to, because I understand golf is an expensive sport, but getting people out here to want to improve themselves needs to be affordable as well, because you're talking about spending $600 on a driver, and then they're going to nitpick at spending $15 for a sleeve of balls or $50 for a box or whatever the case may be. So I haven't changed my prices on my lessons in years, just so that it's affordable for my students, and my students are wanting to come back more and more and more so they can improve and get better.
When you approach a new student, or even Max, say, do you have a ratio that you like to show them of what they should spend on each section of the game, like 60-40, maybe 60% on short game, 40% long game? Do you break it down to them? How do you approach that part of teaching?
Well, if we're referring to a player such as Max Turnquist, working with him for the last 10, 11 years, we really dialed in on the ratio where he should spend his practice time based upon a practice regimen that I put together for him. And that all started with him going out and playing consecutive rounds and keeping his stats, fairways hit, greens hit in regulations, putts, up and down saves, bunker saves, and all that stuff added up to where we felt it was necessary for him to focus most of his attention on where the areas that he needed the most attention. And then from there, I developed this practice regimen for him that covers all aspects. It covers driving, it covers fairway woods, it covers long irons, mid irons, wedges, chipping, pitching, putting, bunker play, fairway bunkers, all that stuff. And when I put this practice regimen together for him, I made him score himself. He had to hit, say, 7 out of 10 balls with the driver in the fairway. Then he had to hit, 7 out of 10 greens with a 4-iron or a 6-iron or a 7-iron, and keep his scores. And if it was in the 70s, it needs to go up. So then he can focus on where, is it my long irons that are giving me issues? Is it my mid irons? Is it my wedges? Am I hitting the ball in the rough and behind trees every time? Where do I need to focus my time on? And that just comes from keeping stats on yourself.
Speaking of coaching kids, how often do you have to deal with the parent coach? Thinks they know better.
That's a good one. I've been around golf a long time. I'm 33, and I started playing golf at a very young age. I was 3 years old when I started playing, and I've seen it my entire life. Where, I travel to all these junior event tournaments on the West Coast in California, Oregon, Idaho, Washington, as a kid, and I get to these tournaments, and there's always the one parent who's standing directly behind their kid on the range, analyzing every single swing. And it's like, and I've seen it happen so many times to where I see that player down the road, and they're no longer playing golf. They got burnt out.
Yeah.
And for any parents that are out there listening, yeah, if your kid's having fun, let them have fun. Right. That's what this game is supposed to be. It's supposed to be fun. Do we want to see our children do well and succeed? Absolutely. But to the point of them getting burnt out, I don't know if I'd push that hard.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's easy for me to say as a bystander because I don't have children currently. But if I am blessed to have children someday, I will not force them to do anything they don't want to do. Sure. When I was a kid growing up, if I wanted to play baseball, go for it. You want to play soccer? Go for it. You want to play golf? Okay. You want to play football? You're not really too big enough for that. So let's stick to the non-contact sports. But my parents were always supportive.
I never knew that
whatever I wanted to do.
I never knew you started playing until you were 3. And I recently read that. I read that you learned from the green to the tee, where your dad, uncle, and cousin would kind of take you, have you hit a couple of putts, have you get really good at that, take you to 30, 45, 50 yards, have you get good at that. And then, incrementally, so on and so forth. Is that something that you would, I guess, instill? Like, would you teach how you learn to somebody super young, like 4, 5, 6 years old?
Yeah. And actually how I learned to play the game, as you just mentioned, is actually part of my style of teaching children to this day. Yes, do we want to, build up some basic ground fundamentals on the full swing? Absolutely. But let's hone in on the short game where, like the way as you just mentioned, the way I was taught, I'd want to go out and play with my dad, my uncle, and my cousin at my family's golf course down in Reading. And I was so little. It's like, okay, you can come out and play with the boys, but here's a putter and a ball. You get 2 putts on every green. That's it. If you can't 2-putt, pick it up, you're done. Well, then once I consistently could 2-putt, then it's okay. And sometimes make one. It's like, okay, well, now you can chip and putt, but you still only have 2 putts. And then that just progressed back and back and back to 25, 50, 7,500. Till the time I was about 7 around 7 or 8, I was back playing the set of tees with my dad, my uncle, and my cousin.
So do you think your best aspect of your game is putting, since that's what you were forced to start with?
I would definitely say my strongest assets on my game are going to be my short game. Put a wedge in my hand or a wedge or a putter in my hand, and I'm going to score. And that's my level of confidence.
I can attest to that.
And that's my level of expectations too.
Yeah. You got any teaching idols who you look up to?
Yeah. As I mentioned Mike Bender earlier, he's very knowledgeable. I like a lot of the stuff that Dave Pelz has to say. Butch Harmon, there's another good one. I'd have to give some credit to my predecessor, Cindy McNider, who was the head professional here at Appletree that hired me to be her assistant pro 11 years ago. I learned some great things from her. She was a top 50 LPGA instructor, so I got to learn a lot of really good things from her as well. But then there's just so many great instructors out there. It's tough to say who's the best, really, because there's just so many good instructors out there that have so much knowledge and information to share with the world. So it's fun, doing the education seminar. I had the opportunity of listening to Mike Bender. I mean, that's just a rare opportunity, and you can't pass that kind of stuff up.
Right.
And then Eddie, didn't we go together to that stack and tilt seminar down in Del Mar at the Golf Academy?
We did. Yeah. That was the beginning of the end of my golf game for that year. Yeah, absolutely. Aaron Baddeley was a stack and tilter. JJ Henry, shout out Northwestern, purple and black every day. Who else was there doing it? It was a great idea. I don't think anybody plays it now, but
hey, what do you think about, we've had these rule changes over the past couple of years. What do you think about those rule changes and any things you'd like to see change still?
I think, the amount of effort that the PGA, USGA, and RNA put in together to make these changes has definitely helped speed up the process of the game itself. It's making it easier on the golfer. So I get what they're accomplishing.
Well, the flags, leaving the flag in was perfect timing for COVID.
Oh, absolutely. And, when I first heard that rule was going to change, that you could now putt with the flag stick in, I immediately went, no, I'm never going to putt with that in, because that just seems weird. Well, now having this rule in effect for the last couple of years, I actually prefer to put the flag stake in from longer distances because it helps with my depth perception.
Right.
But if I get inside 20 feet, I'm pulling that flag stick out every single time because I don't want to get in my way.
Sure.
But, you get those 30, 40, 50, 60, sometimes foot putts where you're a great distance away. That flag stake, for me, it helps with my depth perception.
Anything you want to still see change? We talked one of the things Max brought up last week was the hitting out of a divot in a fairway. If you have to rank a bunker back to condition, why should you be hitting out of a divot in the fairway?
And that's probably one of the most frustrating things about this game that I love so dearly is you can pipe a drive right down the gut and end up in someone's divot.
Right.
And now you're like, great. I was really hoping that rule was going to change when all these changes came out 2 years ago, but it didn't. So I was a little bummed about it, but I would think in time it's going to have to change. I would think.
Sure.
If they're really trying to speed up the game and make it easier on the golfer, then that's another one of those rules that could certainly benefit, that we could all benefit from.
Yeah, I think that's the only one really outstanding that I would want any changes on. I'm fine with pretty much everything else.
Yeah, agreed.
Do you have a coach yourself, Kev, or do you just teach yourself when you're working?
I actually have a really good friend of mine, Shane Snell. I met Shane when I first moved to Yakima 11 years ago, and Shane's a really solid player. Shane's usually a scratch, a 1, a +1, +2. He's a good player. He's very knowledgeable of the game. And Shane actually really helped me 10 years ago with my game. And he saw this, 21-year-old kid who just moved to town, who's a good player, but he saw a lot of potential. But I had to make some changes. I had to make some really severe changes. And Eddie, I don't know if you remember what my old grip used to be like, but it was extremely strong. It was right hand.
You were stronger than strong. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like almost under the club. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, I could tell time on my left wristwatch, and my right hand was tucked under. And my misses back then was a severe hook. I mean, it's gone. It's off property.
Yeah.
So
left of left.
Oh yeah, it's definitely left of left. But working with Shane for the years that I have, he's really helped me develop my game. Excuse me. He's really helped me grow my game, and then now with my years of being a PGA professional and experience and knowledge of learning the swing in the game even more in depth, it's given me a better understanding of how I can properly swing the golf club to where it's not going to put wear and tear on my body, and it's going to make things easier, and it's going to make things more consistent. And therefore, I'm going to go out and shoot more consistent and lower scores. So I would have
Kevin, put me on. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say I'd have to give a lot of credit to Shane on that one. But as far as, a regular basis, if I'm going through a spell where something's out of whack and I can't figure out what it is, I'll happily call a buddy up and say, hey, can you meet me at the range at 11 o'clock or 2 o'clock and just come watch me for 5 minutes. I just need a second pair of eyes. Or I'll grab my camera and I'll throw it on my tripod and go record some swings and take a look.
Tiger's miss is a block right. Kevin Anderson's miss is a hook left. He's Kevin Anderson, head PGA professional at Appletree Resort up in Yakima, Washington, and Max Turnquist's coach. Kevin, put me on the first tee of your first professional event. What'd that feel like?
Well, you should know you were on the bag.
Wait, is that the first professional one? I do remember that, but that's the first one?
That was the first one.
Oh, dude, that was so much fun. That was Rose Bowl course, right?
Yep. Yeah,
I forget the name of the course, but it was up there.
Yeah, it's right next to the Rose Bowl
I didn't know that was your first one. Okay.
Yeah, that was my first professional event. It was a Pepsi Tour event, and it was at the golf course. That's what it was. Right next to the Rose Bowl Stadium, and they actually shut that golf course down and use it for parking when the Rose Bowl is at the stadium.
Wow.
And right. I remember standing on the first tee with the clubhouse behind us, and I was shaking, and my hands were literally shaking. And I looked at you, and you go, "Hey, deep breath. You got this. I'm here on your bag. We're gonna get through this. We're gonna have a good day." And I think we finished second place in that event.
I think you turned it around. It was a little shaky start, but I do remember that. Do you have any pro-am stories as a PGA member that you can share and just maybe give the listeners of like what the talent pool is out there, just really like the minuscule of really, really good golfers.
So one experience I can share, I was playing in the Rosars Open up in Spokane, Washington, about 7 years ago. And my buddy, who was on my bag, pulled into the parking lot as I'm walking to the first tee. I thought he was going to miss the first round of this 3-day tournament, and I'm going to be carrying the bag my first round because he had to work. But he shows up as I'm walking to the first tee, and I drop my bag and go, all right, here you go. You're on the bag. Your turn now. And we go out that first round at Indian Canyon in Spokane, Washington, and lipped out a 15-footer on the first hole for birdie. Gave it a good run, but missed it. Made a birdie on 2, missed an opportunity on 3, and then made a really good par save on 4. And the putts were just so close to dropping. When I made that par putt on 4, it's like, okay, light bulb turned on, it's game on, let's go. Well, then I turn up the hill and I go to 5. I birdie 5, I birdie 6, I birdie 7, I birdie 8. And I'm walking off at 8. My buddy on the bag goes, nice birdie. And I go, what? He goes, do you know what? Never mind, forget it, keep going. Because he recognized I was in the zone. Well, then I birdied 9. Then I birdied 10. So I birdied 6 in a row. I'm 7 under. And I just left like a 15-footer on 11 short, right in the heart, and tapping my par putt when we get over the par 5 12. And I'm standing there on the box, and I'm writing down my score and my competitor's score. And I look at my card and I see all these circles on my score. And I looked at my buddy on the bag and I go, dude, seriously? And he goes, oh man, you came out of it. And one of the other pros in the group looks at me and he goes, hey Kev, nice for you to finally join us, bud. So I finished the day really well. I shot 63, which was 8 under par. And I was in solo second place going into the second day, feeling great. I mean, the amount of putts I made was just stupid. And the hole looked like it was as big as a basketball hoop. And then I get out there the very next day on Saturday, and I can't make a 4-footer to save my life. I had what was it? It was like a 16-shot difference in putting from Friday to Saturday. And I shot 80 with just a mountain of putts. Wow. I went from being in second. I went from being in second place, looking at my chops going into the weekend, to now going, crap, am I even going to make the cut to play on Sunday? Well, I'm fortunately enough, I was able to make the cut right on the cut line. So I'm in the first group Sunday morning, and we go about the round, and I'm playing better. I was actually making some putts on the final day, and I ended up shooting 67. And this is the memory that sticks out most in my mind, is that we're coming up the 18th hill, which is this par 5, uphill par 5 with the fairway slopes left to right. And it's a challenging tee shot because you got to throw a draw into a fairway that's working against you to keep it in the fairway. And since I've made my changes, like I talked about with Shane, my miss is no longer left. My miss is right. I'm either going to block it or I'm going to fade it. I play a fade now. I don't play a draw anymore. So hitting the draw on this tee shot was pretty hard for me. But I was able to work one into the fairway and get up there, and we're standing there looking up at the hillside and looking up at the green, and we got our yardage, and there's this flag stick, or this American flagpole on top of the clubhouse up on top of the hill. And I'm talking to my buddy on the bag, and we got the yardage, and I go, hey, look at that flag up there on top of the clubhouse. I go, it's moving. We can't feel it down here, but it's up there and it's moving. And I go, you see that little kid on the hillside behind 18 green in the red sweater? He goes, yeah, which was about 12 yards left of the target. I go, what do you think this club, this distance at that kid right there? He goes, I like it. Hands me a 7-iron. I step up, I flush it. And as soon as I hit it, I did a little club twirl and I started walking. And the ball comes down, it gets to its apex, and the wind hits it, and it comes down right, and it comes right on top of the flagstick. We can't see it because it's uphill and the pin's tucked behind a bunker. Well, there's about 30, 40 people up on the hillside behind the green, and they all just went nuts. And I look at my buddy and I go, did that just go in? Because it came down right on it. And he goes, no, I think it would have been a little bit louder had that gone in, but I think you're really close. Sure enough, we get up there. I just stoned one to about 2.5 feet and tap in my eagle putt to shoot 67 and finish the round. And we're going to the scorer's tent. And here comes this little kid in the red sweater. It was a first tee of Spokane red sweatshirt. And here comes this, 8-9-year-old kid. Man, that was the coolest shot I've seen all day. That was awesome. Well, what's your name? And it was such a cool moment. And the kid goes, can I have your autograph? And I'm like, what? But I grabbed my golf ball out of my pocket that I just finished my round with. And my buddy tossed me the Sharpie and I signed the ball and I gave it to the kid. And the kid goes running away to his parents, like, Mom, Dad, look, I got his autograph. And it was such a cool, I mean, I'm not a touring professional by any means, and no one knows really who Kevin Anderson is out there in this tournament, but that kid absolutely erased the 80 that I shot on the second day. I mean, that kid absolutely highlighted probably one of the coolest highlights I'll ever have in my playing career, is that little kid on the 18th green running up to me just in sheer excitement, wanting my autograph of all people. But it's moments like that are really special and that they stick with you for a long time. So that was kind of a long story or long answer to your question about memorable moments, but that little kid was definitely a highlight.
That's a great story.
And you gave him a moment that he'll remember for the rest of his life. And he's probably playing golf because of you. That's excellent. Let's dive into a couple more topics here. The analytics of golf. We're all numbers games. Everybody has a TrackMan launch monitor. We're all focused on ball speed and swing speed. So what are your thoughts there? Are we getting to a point where we're paralysis by analysis and we have too much junk going on in our heads, or is that where the game is going?
It's honest. It is where the game is going, and it's where the game is at. Numbers are important. You talk about launch monitors, and we talk about Bryson's club head speed and his ball speed and his carry distance. It's good to know your numbers. It really is. So, and I could sit here and ramble off that my club head speed's 118, my carry distance is 295, and it rolls out to 320-ish. My ball speed is 170 miles an hour, and my spin is about 2,500, which is where I want it for my numbers. So, and it's helpful to know those numbers throughout the bag so that you're out there. Can it be too much? Yes. Because it's very easy to get so number driven and so number focused. We forget to just grab a club and take a swing and hit the ball.
Oh yeah. A lot of guys I talk to, they get super into their numbers, and then you find out that's the one good swing they made in the session. Numbers are great, but repeatable numbers are better.
Yeah. And I go back to, I think about numbers, and, I go through all my rounds that I play. When I get done, it's playing back in my mind. And what I'm really thinking about is, how many good shots did I actually hit today?
Right.
And I could probably count on one hand. If I go out and have a good round, I'll probably only need 5 fingers to count what I consider for myself a good, solid golf shot. So my main focus when I'm out there playing is, are numbers important? Do I think about them? Of course. But over every swing, I'm just trying to make a good, smooth, solid swing, make good contact, and finish balanced. And those are my last thoughts to go through my mind every single time. I'm just trying to make a good, smooth swing. And it's simple.
Right. It brings up, just process versus results. We go back to Dr. Joe's classes. I was a results-oriented player for sure, where, we see number par 72. I want to get that result. Well, I want to get a result obviously lower than 72, but then we forget about the process. So I just think, since we're so numbers driven and analytics driven, that I wonder if golfers, the average Joe is looking at these guys and, well, I got to go get my own launch monitor and I'm going to get my ball speed to half of what Bryson is going to be. But then they forget about the actual process of what golf course management means. And not a lot of people know what that means. Shoot, I didn't know what it meant. I just hit ball, find ball,
right,
repeat.
Course management, and with course management being on the table, in my mind, course management is not hitting the ball as far as you possibly can and going and finding it. proper golf course management in my mind is playing the hole backwards. You play it green to tee, not tee to green.
Yep.
All
my best rounds, or none of my good rounds have ever been, man, I just bombed at 320 all day. It's all been, I hit to here because I knew I needed to be here. This was the side of the green to miss. When you manage your way through it, that's when my best rounds are.
Yep.
You remember those close chip shots or that really tough bunker shot that you hit to 2 feet versus, I piped one down the middle, 350 or whatever it may be. So, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You definitely tend to remember those more solid shots, the challenging ones, the one that you chipped in, or the long birdie putt the long par save that you made, or the iron that you stuffed to within 5 feet, or the difficult bunker shot that you got up and down from. You remember that stuff. Where I've had days where I'm out there and I'm hitting driver extremely well, where I'm hitting 12 to 14 fairways in a round, and I'm bombing drives. I'm hitting them solid all day long, but I don't really think about that. What I think about is the shot after that, and then the shot after that.
Yeah, my best round this year, the only shot I can remember from that round was stuffing a 7-iron to 2 feet on a par 5. I don't remember anything else about it.
It's a good shot.
It was an accident.
Kevin, why is golf so difficult?
Where should I start?
How much time you got?
Yeah, how much time do we have? Golf is so difficult because it's, and there's a lot of ways to explain this, but really, there's that old saying, the most difficult shot in golf is the 6 inches between your ears. And I can't even begin to describe how true that is. And people want to get better, but they focus on the physical aspect of getting better. How often do you hear people talking about their mental preparation? The only people you hear talk about their mental preparation are the people that do this for a living.
Right.
The players that play on the LPGA tour, the PGA tour, the European tour, and all these professional golfers, you hear them talk about their mental preparation in that process. But do you hear a 15 or 16 handicap talking about their mental preparation to go out and shoot under their handicap?
Not unless it involves beer.
Yeah, liquid courage. So to answer your question,
well,
I think golf is so difficult because it's the mental aspect of, we have these greens and regulations, we have these fairways and regulations, we have par putts, birdie putts, and we have all this stuff that we're constantly thinking about. But I think golf is so difficult because it's so mental.
Yeah, Jordan Spieth, if you're listening, if you are listening, we heard Max and his 63 story. We'll leave you with this. We want to hear your side of the story of Max's 63.
So we actually played 36 holes that day. We went out in the first round, and I shot 1 over on the front 9 with 2 bogeys and a double on the front 9. I shot 1 over on the front. Then we make the turn to the back. Well, then I birdied 7 out of 9 holes on the back 9 to shoot 66 in our first round. And Max looks at me and he goes, "Hey, do you want to play again?" I'm like, "Heck yeah, I want to keep going. I just birdied 7 out of 9 holes. Let's go."
Right.
So we make the turn to go play our second round, where he shot 63, and I go birdie, birdie, birdie to start. And then I tapered off the rest of the front 9 where he caught fire, and we make the turn. And I couldn't tell you where he was at making the turn on the back 9 of our second round, where we're on the 10th hole, which is a par 4 here. And I'm crouched down over about a 15-footer, and Max is behind me looking at like a 35, 40-footer. And I step off to the side, and here comes the ball, and it comes rolling by, and I'm looking at it, and it's like, that's going to go in. Well, boom, he drops his 40-footer. And he'd just been making putts left and right all of a sudden. And I looked at him, and I go, "Who lit a fire into your butt?" He goes, "You." I'm like, "Oh, kudos. Okay, I'll take that kudos." So we go about the rest of the round.
Did you guys talk much throughout the round?
Oh, yeah, we were talking all the entire time. We were just BSing and having a good time and just enjoying each other's company. And my wife was riding along with us. She played in the first round, and then she didn't play the second 18. So she was just riding along. And we go throughout the rest of the round as we're just having conversation, having a good time, and enjoying each other's company while he was home from college. And we get to the end of the round, towards the end of the round, and I get to 14, and I look at my scorecard. I'm keeping my stats, and I realize that I've hit 14 greens in a row. I'm like, ooh, I want 18. I've got 2 par 4s, a par 3, and a par 5 coming up. Like, I want 18 greens. So I hit the green on 15, hit the green on 16. So now I got 16 greens in a row, and I kind of lose track of my overall score, and I lose track of Max's score because I'm just focusing on hitting greens at that point. And we get to 17, which is the Apple Island green, our signature hole here. And all I'm thinking is just get it on the green. There's no water. You got a big green down there. Just hit the green. Hit the green. I'm like, perfect. All right, I got it. Then we get to 18. 18 is a par 5 with forced carry over water. And I'm thinking, okay, hit driver, hit it past all the trouble, hit it past the water, just get it out there, get it in the fairway. So you at least and then I can miss the green from there, and then I can chip on and get 18 greens. I'm fine with that. So I probably hit my best drive of the day on 18. I just piped one. And then I've got an easy short iron into this short par 5, and I hit it up the hill, knock it on the green. And I took an extra club, so I didn't leave it short. I just wanted to get it up there. And I get it up there in 2, and now I'm looking at like this 35-footer downhill sidewinder, and it's almost dark at that point. And I can't really read the break, but just from playing here for so many years, I know what it does. And Max is working on getting up and down to save his par. Well, Max gets up and down and saves his par, and now I stand over this 35-footer and I bury it for an eagle. And I walk over to Max and my wife, and my wife looks at Max and she goes, "Good round, bud. Good job." And he just lets out this big, heavy sigh of relief. And I look at him and I go, "What did you just do?" He goes, I just shot my lowest round ever. I just shot 63. Or he goes, "I shot 9 under." I'm like, "Holy shit, you just shot 63?" I'm like, "Dude, fist pump, good round." And we leave the group, we leave the 18th green, we get up here in front of the clubhouse, and I start tallying up all my scores. And I look at it and I go, "Hey, did you say 63? And I'm looking at Max. I go, "Did you say 63 is your lowest round ever?" He goes, "Yeah, why?" I go, "Dude, I just tied you." Like, are you kidding me? You can't even let me.
You ruined his day, Cass. You ruined his day. Oh, no. You crushed his heart.
You know, it was fun. And, you know, we were just out there playing golf and just having fun. And I know he and I have talked about it since, and he knew that we were both kind of going toe to toe, but I kind of lost track of it because I was just focused on hitting greens, and I was just enjoying his company and riding around the car with my wife. I was just having a good time, just playing the game. Wasn't even thinking about the score.
Just goes to show when you take some stress off.
Yeah. And 63
it's that
ties my lowest round ever for myself too.
Yeah. What a good moment between coach and player. Kev, what do you got? What's behind your left shoulder there? Who's on that? It's on your desk. Yeah. This doesn't make for good radio, but who is that? Is that you?
Hanging on the door behind me?
Yeah.
Is that Hogan?
No, that's actually me.
Yeah.
Let me grab my computer here.
Okay. Yeah.
I had
for those listening, he's taken us to his office, and he has a picture of himself. It's a USGA. It looks like a little artwork, and it's got a whole bunch of signatures. Do I see there? What is all that?
So that's a picture of me at a U.S. Open qualifier a couple of years ago. And one of my former kart kids went to art school over on the west side of Washington State. And have you ever seen that poster of the 1.5 second thoughts in your golf swing? And it's this pencil etched drawing of a golfer back in the day. And there's all these chicken scratch comments written all around him.
Yeah.
Same concept.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of sayings written all around that picture of me about all the pre-swing or in-swing thoughts that go through every golfer's mind. And it's more of a kind of a laughing gag kind of deal than anything, but it's definitely made some good conversation since I've hung it up in my office.
That's good. Kev, it's good to see you.
You too, bud. It's been a while.
Yeah. Thanks for doing this, man. And you got a good kid there with Max. Keep up the good work. And gosh, I wish you the best as always, and Max the best. And thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on today.
Rough Fairways is executive produced by Eddie Dunn and Mike Sells. Our thanks to Kevin for making this happen. We are off next week. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. Enjoy the company, and y'all know the drill. Please be kind to each other.